And Ocean, welcome to Super Athlete Radio in person.
In person, we tried this online, and the spirit, the universe wanted us to meet up in person. You were like, that was a fire interview. It cut off twice. And you're like, bro, I want to fly down there. I'm like, when? You're like, a couple days. I'm like,
This all happened pretty quick.
okay, all right, cool, come.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure to have you here in beautiful Puerto Rico.
Beautiful Puerto Rico.
We got a great session in too also today, so that you can see a little bit of what I do. It's not everything that I do, but it's what I built my name on. And yeah.
And then let's start there. That's what we were talking about. So let's talk about what we did today. I'd love to start. So what do we do today? How did you kind of lay this out?
And why his mouth is blue?
Why is my mouth blue? We've done a lot of episodes on biohacking stuff, so this isn't too crazy.
Okay.
As long.
So he's got some methylene blue in his mouth. It was really bad earlier, but we've gotten him to drink a lot of water. It's not as bad. But today we did some anti-aging body therapy, and that's a modality that combines basically 10 to 12 modalities of body work with high technology and with a functional movement assessment and training. And Chase is an athlete. He sprints, he works out, he lifts weights, he's explosive. But when it comes to longevity, and what I do for championship athletes is I'm a longevity coach and an age reversal specialist. So I have a lot of executives as clients, and on the athletic side, I'm a longevity coach where I recognize that it's usually in their final years that you're usually getting paid the most. So, think of a Tom Brady, like each final season that he has, he's getting guap, right? So being able to do your last season and maybe even another one from full health can happen when you focus on your longevity, when you eliminate the tightness and you continue progressing when it comes to functional range of motion, functional flexibility, injury prevention, injury treatment, and then high recovery science. So anti-aging body therapy is something that reverses the decline in mobility that we typically encounter as we get older. My whole thing is, a lot of people think that their decreased mobility and increased pain is a product of aging, but really a lot of times it's a product of neglect, right? And lack of awareness, and I mean, they don't even stretch, but stretching isn't the best way to handle it. Yoga is one of the best ways to handle it.
You have a very specific definition of yoga. The most general public, it seems like, gets wrong. How do you define yoga? How's that different than stretching?
Yeah,
a lot of our audience will say, hey, yoga is just stretching.
Yeah, yoga is definitely not just stretching. Like it's completely different. Like, first of all, yoga is more about preparing the body to connect to the spirit world, utilizing breath and consciousness. Asana, or pose, is literally one line, one small piece of the Yoga Sutras. It's like yoga is so much more than that. But when we're talking about asana, it's not just stretching. Like, yoga is not just stretching. It's the connection to your breath and connection to your range of motion. Flexibility is a side effect of yoga. It's not the purpose of yoga. It's nice. You can go to yoga because you want to increase your flexibility, but that is a side effect of what yoga is actually about, which is stability and strength through the entire range of motion. And as you build that strength through the entire range of motion, meaning that you're not just strong at the bottom of the squat, you're strong 10% up, 20% up, 30% up, 40% up. You're strong all the way through the movement and not just like blowing through it, but you can't do the movement slowly. As you build that strength, your range of motion will naturally increase because that muscle is supported in such a way that it has the strength, it has the stabilizer muscles as it becomes more flexible, as opposed to just stretching and you're just getting certain muscles more and more flexible, but there's no stabilizer muscles behind that. And so sometimes that flexibility can actually put you more at risk of injury when you're just stretching, as opposed to yoga, which is like, it's like, and some of you guys have done less than 3 months of yoga. Some of you guys think you know what yoga is, and you've only done yoga a handful of times. And as athletes, we expect that, you know, anything physical, if we try it just a couple times, we know what it's about. We understand it. But a lot of times that might be true, but with yoga, it's not true, because it takes 3 months to even for your body to understand what yoga is about, because you have to develop the range of motion, the flexibility, the endurance in these awkward poses. They're really challenging for a lot of people. A lot of people can't straighten up their arms doing this. They, especially in a lunge position, they don't have the range of motion in their shoulder. They don't have the range of motion in their hips to even really do the pose correctly. And so when you do the pose correctly, it allows your energy to flow in such a way that you actually feel it. So when you have what I call a moment in yoga, and everybody has it. If you're consistent yoga about 3 hours a week, you're gonna have it around the 3-month mark of just doing consistent yoga, especially in studio when you have somebody to coach you and give you adjustments, especially if they see that you're being consistent and you're trying, they're gonna give you that juice. And then just out of nowhere, like, it's so, like, in yoga, enlightenment is found in the millimeters. You'll be doing yoga for 3-4 months and you'll hear them talk about, okay, lengthen here and expand here and open here as you move through this pose. And you'll just be like, what are they even talking about? Like, it sounds nice, but I don't actually understand what they're talking about. And then one day, 4 months, 5 months into yoga, you accidentally do what they're talking about doing, and it makes sense to you. You're just like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Push the hip forward, tuck the tailbone under, push the knife edge of the foot into the floor. And you've been doing even maybe a year, and you finally get what they're saying, pushing that knife edge of your foot into the floor. And all of a sudden you're laying in Shavasana, which is the final pose, and you're laying there and you're just breathing and you're just like, start crying uncontrollably. It's always the people who have like the louder, the more extrovert personalities. Because I've been teaching yoga for so long, so I see it in class. Like, the people who are like really, really outgoing, they'll just start crying out of nowhere, because their body just releases. It's just these micro, they sit up a little taller in Warrior 2 or Warrior 1. They're just lengthening because they have the strength. They're slowly building the strength to actually hit that, actually building those internal muscles around the spine, around the hips, that they can actually lengthen their spine while their legs are in a certain position and lengthened also, that it creates that effect. And there they are 10, 20, 30 minutes later in Shavasana, and the release happens.
We were talking about earlier and it's common to hear, like, you hold trauma in certain parts of your body. What do you feel like is going on in your body that actually holds that there, that doing things like yoga releases?
Yeah, that's really great. And the earlier me that grew up in Oklahoma, Texas, and was a football player, and was just like, you guys are gay, and you guys are blah blah blah. Didn't understand some of these things that I understand now. But it all comes down to, the easiest way to understand is a lie detector test. Okay, why does a lie detector test work? Do you know why?
It's measuring heart rate, right? That's one thing.
It measures many different things, but depending on which one you use. But you can use ones that measure heart rate variability, and there's a couple different techniques that they use. But the point is that the body has telltale signs when you express a certain emotion. Okay, so a lie detector can pick it up. And so the technology on my table that makes it so expensive is actually a heart rate variability sensor and programming that hooks up to my laptop. You see in the old anti-aging body therapy video, I had it hooked up to Jake and it was reading his brain waves, but it's just annoying to bring it around. Now I've gotten to a point where it's easy for me to read it now because I used that technology to understand what was going on in the body. But this is what it comes down to, is that now with AI and stuff like that, you can read body language from someone to tell if they're lying, if they're upset. Like, we see it with our own eyes. Like, you see somebody and you're just like, what's wrong? And they're like, nothing. And you're just like, no, but what's wrong? Like, you can't like actually point out what it is that you're seeing, but you see something, because emotions are a posture. I like to say God is a posture, right? When you're hitting God status, it's a posture. There was this really cool study in Brazil, and I might not get the numbers exactly right, but there's 30 people who, they had two groups of 30, okay? And they asked one group, hey, every day when you wake up for 5 minutes, please go like this. Hold yourself down here and sit like this for 5 minutes. And they had one group stand up for 5 minutes in the morning and put their arms up like this.
Yeah.
Okay? 30 days they did this. A lot of 30s in the story, okay? So 30 people one group, 30 people the other. One did one did the other. They did it for 30 days. And then they took both groups, 60 people, on an adventure. This was the test. And they get to the field trip, and they all go and they all have to put on harnesses. They're all going bungee jumping, right? Everyone who did this in the morning, every single one of them jumped, barely any hesitation. And then the group that was like that for 30 days, none of them could jump, right? So it goes both ways.
The second group probably had more testosterone, right? That's one thing that happened.
When you put your hands up?
Yeah, power pose.
Power pose, exactly. Power posing. And
it's got to be more than that, though, right?
Yeah, well, it's because your posture can affect your emotion, and your emotion can affect your posture. Okay. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So when you lie, you have a posture that changes, and it can be read through eyes. Like, people can tell when somebody's lying. You can tell when a kid is lying, right? They change their baseline, right? And you can't quite put your finger on what it is, but it's their posture changes ever so slightly. And those muscles that are involved in that slight change that you're able to see that's different than their baseline is what emotion stuck in the body is. So if you feel bullied and you feel like you're hiding and you're not, like, your posture starts to do like this, right? And even blind people, if they do something like awesome, they've never even seen somebody do this. It's just a natural thing. They're like, yes. Blind people do that. You know what I mean? It's not that we're seeing somebody do it and that's why we're doing that. It's like an emotional response to in physical form. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you know about power posing, and that's why you could fake your emotions. Like, you can make yourself happy when you're not happy by actually smiling.
Right.
And the feeling of joy you have inside makes this posture change, right? Your posture, your pose changes. And so when you talk about people having emotions stuck and trapped in their body, I see it all the time, right? So in my work, as people get more comfortable with what I'm doing, right? So you were like a level 1.5. You need to get your yoga game up, and you'll get to these beautiful openings. There's emotion stuck in our bodies. And sometimes when I get that nervous system that's been holding that for so long, like, it's subconscious at a point. These emotions that we have, this, feelings of inadequacy or pain, or you were really let down. There's a reason they say I got stabbed in the back, because people literally actually felt that in their body, right? Heartbreak, right? They're feeling it in their body. It was an emotion, and now they're feeling it in physical form, right? And so sometimes you do big heart openings, right? You change their posture, and it's just slowly, ever so slightly, pulling their chest apart. And as they breathe into it, they just start breaking down, bro. Because that tightness that they still had in their heart, and they haven't healed from that trauma that they had. A lot of times, especially in women, they'll hold like emotions in their hips. So sometimes, remember when I was doing that release through your stomach and going into your hip flexor, so many women just breaking down crazy in there. I've had men, and I've connected to men and felt what they're feeling opening up right here in their armpit, right? And I think that's connected to their heart and emotions that they had that they're storing in here. I think, I would guess it has something to do with like along the lines of like pride, hurt, or something like that. Because like you pump your chest up when you're proud, So I would just guess it's something like that, but I've like literally connected to it, and we're like both like drooling, like, because it just like.
And then you come from a family of what you said was healers. You consider yourself a healer. How do you deal with people releasing stuff like that? So you feel it?
I have good practices.
Okay.
Yeah, I have good practices. I definitely know what I'm doing, and I definitely have studied, mastered 10 different modalities of healing. And I pay attention, I study. That's all I do is study. And, I quickly learned, what proper etiquette is, but I naturally kind of do that. I kind of naturally, you have people who have open energy, and they're extremely empathetic, and they like feel people's energy. They also, because their energy is so open, they get sick more often and stuff like that. My energy is just already like, nah, I don't get sick. Nah, I'm not like taking in your energy. Where
you can tell what they have going on, what they're releasing.
I have the aptitude to open up. Like my hands I was blessed with hands that are really receptive to my loved ones. So there's 6 of us, 3 boys, 3 girls in my family. We used to play healer games as kids. And so I can connect with my brothers and sisters. I can connect with my lovers. And so that's what it was before. As an athlete, as a martial artist, I started in Shaolin Kung Fu, right? So in Shaolin, the most nastiest warriors are also the best healers. And you know why? Because in Shaolin, you don't got a treatment room. Like in football, we had trainers, We had somebody to tape your ankle. We had somebody to put you in an ice bath, somebody to do ultrasound on you. You don't got that in Shaolin, right? You don't got that at the monks don't have that. What they have is an advanced understanding of the body, right? And they train so hard. So to be the best Shaolin Kung Fu master, you got to train with other people that are training so hard. And the only way you're able to have the longevity to keep getting better is if you understand how to take care of yourself, heal yourself, and your training partners. So in the same way, like I can disable you like right here, right? But I can also heal you right here, right? So did you see that sensitivity when I was like working in this area and how intense that is? Imagine for a fighter who's biting down on a mouthpiece and getting punched in the head. You know, when they're young, they don't get knocked out. But as they get older as a fighter, they get knocked out more and more and more. It's because they've got so much tension in their jaw. You felt how brutal that was, right? And you're not getting punched in the face, right? So, you know, that's the key. Like my fighters can't get knocked out because I release all that. And they're like, they do, like, they try to fight me. And I'm like, nigga, bring it. Like, I'm gonna take this. And they're just like, no. I'm like, come on, give me 6, 5, 4, 3. Roll the clip. Good breath, brother. We're almost there. We got 10, 9, 8. You got it. 7.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It's intense, right?
Yeah, sorry.
But
Yeah, legit.
but they get to a point where, like, they were even worse than you, and they get to a point where it feels good to them. You feel what I'm saying? But like understanding that just comes from understanding the body. So I also, like, all the same pressure points that you disable somebody, all the joint manipulation that you disable somebody, the pressure points that you disable somebody are also the same pressure points that you heal somebody. And so, you know, I always wanted to be a superhero and a ninja. So, you know, getting to train with people like that, you know, my master was cold like that. He didn't even consider himself a healer. He was just a martial artist, and he would just know how to. He's like, oh, you got something going on with your wrist, and he would just like, he'd be like, oh wow, that's amazing. You know what I mean? And so I quickly picked that up. I already knew how to do it because I had been doing that since I was a kid. My dad would always make me rub his feet and different things, and I didn't have the type of dad you could ever question or talk back to in any type of way, even act like you were about to. And I remember one time I was just so sick of it because he always made me rub his feet, and I'm just like, well, why do I have to do it? And just prepared to get smacked. And I was just like waiting to get hit so hard. And he didn't hit me, and I look up at him, and he just had the most, I've never seen my dad confused in his life. He's like PhD, biochemist, like 2 religion degrees, 2 nutrition degrees, like so smart. And he was dumbfounded. He was like, Ibok Joe, because you are the best. Like, he was just like, what are you talking about? You're like the best at this. Like, yeah, so I, like, it's kind of sad that he was gone before I could realize that I used to love doing that, right? But because I was being forced to do it, I thought I didn't like it. And then when I look back, especially like now when I go into a little bit of a trance sometimes when I'm healing loved ones. And I remember I used to do that with him. You know, I'll try not to cry, but I used to do that with him, and I used to go in that trance. I didn't even realize I used to love it because I could feel it. I could feel what he was feeling, right? I didn't know what it was, but I was just like, I would do that. So, you know, how can anybody compete with me? You know what I'm saying? Because when I put my hands on somebody, I'm touching them like I'm getting an opportunity to touch my dad again, because I wish that I could touch him again, you know? So
A lot of what you're talking about is this mind-body connection. As super athletes, something we say all the time is our physiology drives our psychology.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like there's such a disconnect with this stuff works and it works so well, but why is it such a disconnect, you feel, this idea of just how thorough and deep the mind-body connection is?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's our culture. You know, it's our culture doesn't prioritize these things, right? Whereas certain cultures, you know, more Eastern cultures might prioritize the mind-body connection, the mind-body-spirit connection. But the forward progress of the Western culture doesn't prioritize that, right? And it's getting worse and worse. Like, at least they used to like say that they were spreading Christianity. Now it's just like a non-spiritual version of this movement, which you know, has its drawbacks. And yeah, so if you have people around you who are practicing in this way and you're able to see the benefit, it's easier to do. But you know, life is getting more and more challenging. You know, it's more of a rat race. It's more work that feels like it needs to be done, and that's pulling us away from ourselves, both mentally, spiritually, and physically.
And then how do you view like grind culture and grinding, being a former top athlete yourself, working with some of the best, where work ethic is a huge piece? How do you kind of view grinding overall, and where does this all kind of, because the thing that frustrates me is like, it looks like what we just did today, like you were just recovering, like you weren't grinding, like you were taking time off, but it's not, to me it's all connected, it goes together. And if like you look at the best, like going back to the athlete analogy that we use all the time, is like they spend so much time doing stuff to prepare to play their sport rather than playing their sport, but it's still a part of their grind.
Yeah.
So how do you view kind of grind culture overall, and the grinding kind of in that sense, and then also with what you just said, like the rat race and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a hustler. I was the strongest pound for pound in the NCAA when I was playing football. And I know about grinding. I know about pushing myself to the utmost and all those things. But I also was in chronic pain for 8.5 years because of that, right? I was also like spiritually depleted from like hunting and just like, oh, every girl that I wanted, every money that I wanted. Like I went to prison for a year in Vegas because I just like had to have it all. Like I was about to be 28 as a millionaire, just grinding, you know? And praise God, like I eventually found my balance and not only learn from those situations, but am able to help others now from those situations. But
so what would you say to yourself at 27 now, with wisdom that you have now? What would you?
I mean, I would have told myself some shit way earlier than that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But you know, I would say that balance is key, and that's hard for a young kid who felt like he didn't have the things that he felt he deserved growing up, and you know, felt like he was not considered a lot of times because he didn't have what other people had. It was hard to tell a kid like that. So I really believe in like mentorship and like, you know, maybe you're new to learning stuff and you're like young, or I just think that like anywhere you can encourage somebody, like right now, like these last several years, like and even like college, post-college, like being someone who kids think is cool is a really powerful place, because there was a lot of people trying to tell me wisdom growing up, but they were like old and not sexy, right? And like that didn't resonate with me. And they were like, dare to keep kids off drugs. I'm like, you're not cool. Like, I'm not trying to be like you, so I might check out what drugs got going on, you know? And so what I recognize is that it was a small group of people, small group of the type of people that actually resonated with me. And that's why I have a lot of respect for one of my clients, Jake Paul, because he's the type of person that a lot of kids look up to, and now he's like into spirituality, into breath work, into meditation, yoga, recovery, like positive mindset, you know, encouraging balance, encouraging a positive outlook on the world for young men who are feeling lost. Him and Aubrey Marcus are writing a book for young men and stuff like that. Like that guy can get through to a bunch of people. So, I mean, now who I am, since I'm me, I could get through to the younger version of myself and tell him it's like, it's okay. Like, money's not the most important thing. It's actually not. Like, the relationships that you have with people, respect women. They're way more, they'll have your back way more than your bros that you're putting over hoes. I learned that big time. And, just even though I realized that in this world, to be a lot of people that have created great success have had periods of extreme imbalance. It just is what it is, right? So they either like sacrificed sleep or sacrificed relationships or sacrificed, fun, which isn't the worst thing, but they definitely had periods of imbalance, and sometimes they can get through that and recover from that imbalance and be good. Some people have all the money in the world, but they sacrifice their health, and now their health is in a state that there's no amount of money it can buy it back, right? That's like a really sad situation. Hopefully sometimes they got all that money and they can hire people like us to help them, get their stuff right, which I've helped a lot of people do. But I believe that it doesn't always have to be like that. I believe that there's a way to create balance. So my wife, she's a bit younger and she is much wiser than I would have been at her age. And she was interviewing to go to different PhD programs for neuroscience. And like one of her top questions as a genius was, what's work-life balance here like? Like most people wouldn't even think to ask that. This new generations, they're on it, sometimes they take it too far, but everybody says that, But she has a really good balance. She works really hard. And that's what I would say. I would say that you can still work really hard, but understand that recovery and mental health are also important. And when you're pushing yourself, you're pumping in these other areas that are really taxing on your body. Understand that you need more recovery. It's the same thing with athletes. Like, I'm telling you right now, Jake Paul trains harder than any athlete on the planet. If he doesn't, show me who trains harder than him. And not only does he train harder than you, I promise he trains harder than you. Bring it. Come see. Come train with us. You'll see. Like, he trains harder than anybody, on top of running multiple multi-million-dollar businesses. Like, he trains hard as fuck. So to help balance that out, he invests really heavily in having the best people in every position and having an incredible recovery routine, right? Like, he works with me on a daily basis, right? On a daily basis, like almost every night, like every other night, and then sometimes after practice, will do body work. Like any tweak he has in his body, there's a couple places in his body that would be injuries already, but I hop on them right away. Right away, I'm in there. Like, he's like, and I get in there and, you know, it's loosened up, right? Then we put ice on it. We put red light on it. He's on good supplements. He's on good nutrition. He's always got a chef that knows exactly what they're doing, anti-inflammation diets. He does the ice bath 2-3 times every single day. You know what I mean? I would say that the key is to understand that with great power comes great responsibility, right? You're pushing your body, high power, high octane, right? And that's why I stress longevity, because as athletes, guess what happens to our biological age, right? We can test our biological age through DNA methylation. That's my favorite way to test it. There's a couple other different methods that you can use. But athletes are always going to test higher than the normal person because of the stress that we put on our body. So it's about understanding that, and understanding that because I'm putting this extra stress on my body, I got to do extra de-stressing of the body. It just comes down to that.
And then do you have a lot of experience with the methylation testing?
Yeah.
With all of the modalities that you use, is there anything that really stood out to you in terms of really impactful?
Oh yeah, of course. Like what affects biological age the most?
Yeah, in your experience that you've seen, that's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I knew this worked, but this is wild.
So I've got a client that I'm taking to get, with my business partner, therapeutic plasma exchange.
Okay.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
That reduces biological age. You know, in mice, it turns a gray-haired mouse that's past the age of having sex into a black-haired mouse that's over there going to town, bro. Yeah. But the results aren't as pronounced in humans, but it is still affecting their biological age. And then it's not plasma from somebody else. What it is a dilution of your own blood plasma to dilute the aging factors in your blood. So you have, they'll take out 40% of your blood plasma, and they'll replace it with saline, salt water, and a 5% albumin solution. So the 5% albumin, it's a protein that's found in your blood, and it's about 5%. So they replace that protein is all they need to replace, and salt water. And what it does is, how they first figured this out is they basically double tapped 2 mice, a young mouse and an old mouse, and they turned the old mouse young again. But a lot of people forget that they turned the young mouse older, right? So they kind of met in the middle, right? And they were both over there with their IVs, like, okay. Anyways, but then they found that they could, because they were like, does the youthful mouse have some youthful markers in their blood, or does the old mouse have aging markers in their blood? So they did that was called parasymbiosis. I might be saying that wrong, but they tried plasmapheresis instead, which was the dilution of the old mouse's blood, and actually worked better than hooking it up to a young mouse. And so, you know, what I do in my age reversal program is I basically optimize their body, their nervous system, and cleanse them intensely for a week period while balancing their gut and dropping them into deep ketosis and draining their lymphatic system and melting away stubborn body fat, which releases toxins, because a lot of your stubborn body fat is holding toxins. And so we're in this deep detox. We do that for 7 days, and then on the 7th day, we do that therapeutic plasma exchange. It's also called plasmapheresis. And then we do stem cells, exosomes, microneedling of the face, neck, and scalp, and then we do topical exosomes on top of that. And It reverses wrinkles, reverses gray hair. It's amazing. You do it 4 times a year to reverse the aging process. You do it twice a year to suspend the aging process.
And then the microneedling, that's specifically for the skin?
Yeah, it's specifically for the skin. We have like a program called Longevity Party at longevity.party. That's the URL. And what that's about is boosting collagen and elastin by 500%. 500%. Okay, and you do that through these 2 supplements you take together, and those 2 supplements by themselves will increase collagen and elastin by 100%. One of them does 42%, and then combined they do 100%.
What are those?
While reducing free radical damage by 40%, which reduces the inflammation in your body. Okay, just by taking those 2.
What are the 2 supplements?
I'm not going to tell you.
What you mean? Yeah, what?
Go to Longevity Party and you'll see.
Oh, that's all you gotta do? All right, longevity.party. Okay.
And then
That preps it, so that improves it 100%. Then you do the microneedle.
And then microneedling can increase collagen and elastin density by 400%. So combining them can increase collagen and elastin by up to 500%.
And then the exosomes, those are, you can get those in the States, correct?
Yeah. We do them. It's very favorable here for biomedicine like that in Puerto Rico. So I bring a lot of clients down here it allows them to disconnect from their, sometimes doing it in their city, they don't feel as released as they are here, where we're just focused on personal development, emotional intelligence, cleansing, got them on the right diets, there's no distractions, there's no kids running around, and plus our doctors in regard to like stem cells and exosomes, and they're on point down here.
Yeah. And the reason I was curious about that is just, it seems like the skin is an underrated organ. When it talks about longevity, it's just like, oh, this is just like a outcome of longevity is your skin looking like this, but you can do things to make your skin healthier.
Once you realize that your skin is actually an expression of your health and your hydration, right? Your internal health and hydration, then you start to look at it differently, right? And even wrinkles, like, are you hydrated? Do you have the micronutrients that your body needs? Do you have the nutrients that your body needs to create elastin and collagen? And then are you aware of your overuse injuries, right? Or overuse movements. So I don't know if I'll call them an injury, but smiling, right? I smile all the time. So I'm gonna have smile lines, right? People who think really hard with their head, they're gonna have lines on their head, and it's just wear and tear, right? And plus the sun. And so you have to have the micronutrients, you have all that, and then what microneedling does is it just injures that area enough for it to increase collagen production. But yeah, like I love Longevity Party because it's addressing aging and health from the inside and out. And people would come to it if it was just addressing it from the outside, right? So I love like being able to say, hey, this is actually affecting your free radical damage, improving that. It's actually improving your or decreasing your inflammation levels. And so, yeah, I really like that.
And then what are some...
Oh, but you know what you just asked is like, what are the things that affect biological age the most? I would say therapeutic plasma exchange. I would say, and also fasting. So when I'm
trying to figure out on social media, I don't really pay attention, but like now they're trying to say fasting's not good for you. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's different ways to do everything, and then it's also your mindset in doing it. Like the the same people talking about this isn't healthy for you, most of them are so unhealthy, you know? They're like, it's so ridiculous and laughable. Like, you know, talk to somebody who has an impressive biological age and see what they do. I have an impressive biological age, right? And, you know, I just did 8 days fractional fasting. And I just finished my last 3 days of dry fasting a couple days ago, right?
When you say dry fasting, that's no liquid, no water. Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I do use my hydrogen machine just to like increase antioxidant response in my body. But yeah, I've gotten good at fasting. I practice Ramadan, even though, you know, I'm spiritual. I practice like certain aspects of Christianity and Islam, even though I don't consider myself religious.
You're picking out what resonates with you.
I pick what resonates with me, and also I am both. You know what I mean? I'm not and I am at the same time, kind of like God. Just kidding. But yeah.
So I wanted to take this to like people who don't have immediate access to you. Like, what if for an anti-aging protocol for like a week or a month? What are some things they could do? So you would say yoga 3 hours a week?
Yeah, I mean,
Fasting?
yeah, yoga, fasting, and proper nutrition and cleansing.
Okay.
Yeah, yoga, fasting, and cleansing, which fasting gives you a really powerful type of cleansing called autophagy, which is like the cleansing of damaged cells almost. You know, it metabolizes them, it eats them up, it cannibalizes them. And, you know, like the earth, it allows them to be fodder for new energy, or, you know what I mean? It like breaks them down. And it's never going to break down a brand new neuron. It's not going to break down a healthy, young brain cell. It's always going to take your most damaged cells and cannibalize those first. And it's amazing. Like fasting initially, it sucks. It's like really hard. Like even a 1 day water fast, it was like, used to be hard for me. Now, 1 day water fast, what? Like that's so easy, right? So you start with a 1 day water fast, and then you come off of it. Next week, try a 2 day water fast. Okay? And then, so you should fast twice a month.
Okay.
For longevity. I don't believe in this week long, like you can do a week long intensive, but you have to have like a foundational longevity lifestyle. So I'll tell you like the couple things that you need to incorporate, like the most important things for a more of a longevity lifestyle, which is like, just like in this day and age, it's like what you might need to just live what was a good lifestyle 10 years ago, because our literal lifespans are decreasing. And yeah, COVID had a lot to do with it, blah, blah, blah. But we are literally getting more unhealthy as a culture, because we have no nutrient density left in our food. We have an increase in toxin exposure. We have an increase in electromagnetic frequency exposure, and an increase in mental stress. 24-hour news cycle. There's always some drama going on. Everybody's got to share it with you. You're not accepted by your peers if you don't heart their IG messages. Half of them are funny. Half of them are funny animal humor, and the other half are like the world's gonna end, and this political party's an idiot. And so, you know, all those things are really damaging on us, and they're affecting our longevity. So I would say that doing these practices are almost just like getting us right. Because like, I don't even think people are understanding like how much chronic disease is going out of control. I don't think people understand how much cancer is here and going to be expressing. I don't think people understand how many people are going to be diagnosed with cancer. Not to be like what do they call it? Like a scare, like a negative Nancy or whatever you would have. But I mean, just it just is what it is. Like, you know, you want to tell me that 5G doesn't affect our living cells? Okay, I'm a farmer, all right? I grow food that is 30 times the nutrient density that you have access to. I know a little something about plants. I know a little something about how life works. You have to understand how nature actually works to grow food that's 30 times nutrient density. I might know a little something. So I have seed trays, right? And those seedling trays, they're little plugs, and you can put 100 seeds in them, right? So if you put 100 of a type of seed in a seedling tray, you're going to have a certain percentage of them that are going to sprout. And, you know, that could be, you know, good seeds that are viable and they're not too old. You know, you're expecting like 70 to 90% germination, right? You'll never have 100% germination. All right. So you put that put a dome over it so it's got that humidity, and put it just, you know, in the living room. Okay. And then seed another one and put it right by your wireless router. You're actually sitting right in front of a 5G router right there.
Sacrifice.
None of these are going to sprout.
Wow.
None of them. Not one. Maybe one. But like one really strong one's gonna sprout. Like that energy does affect these small. So that seed is nowhere near the size of a tree, right? It's a small. It's a cell, basically, right? So if you're saying that doesn't affect us at a cellular level, you're wrong. You're wrong. Like, first of all, it's already been proven that it increases cancer and all these different things. Like, the research is there. It's like undeniable. And then that's just cell phones. And now we're going into like even more powerful stuff. I would say, like, pay attention to these things. It's not a joke. Like, demand, like, it's just so funny. Like the things that we prioritize. Like, we'll buy designer and then complain about organic food being expensive. Like, who said that food is supposed to be cheap in the first place? Like, who got you thinking that your health and nutrition is supposed to be cheap? Like, first of all, that's the priority. Like, that's what we live off of. So if you support that stuff and we ride hard for the people who are doing the right thing, that stuff will eventually get cheaper. But when it's, you know, they're trying, you know, it just, people got to get their priorities in check. So basically what these longevity recommendations are just to survive with good quality of life and not be at high risk for disease. Okay?
And do you feel like any of these specifically counteract against the EMFs?
Oh yeah, there are some stuff that counter against EMF, but that's really about hygiene, right? So, like, make sure you don't aren't exposing yourself unnecessarily to these things. Like,
Turn off your Wi-Fi at night.
Turn off your Wi-Fi at night. Put your phone on airplane mode. Honestly, should be out of your room. I put it on airplane mode. And then also do EMF testers in your room where you sleep. Also, you know, test for mold. You just want to cut down your exposure, and you want to increase. You want to cut down the armies of sickness, right? So the mold, the EMF, the toxins, the, you know, bad food and bad relationship. And you want to cut down that, and you want to increase all the good stuff, right? Like, we're always going to be exposed to stress. We're going to be exposed to toxins, but in nature, there's not as many. And in nature we're given the things to combat it, you know, and now we're being given less things to combat it and more stressors. So it's just about evening out that ratio and putting it on a better side, you know, like, yeah. So directly related to EMF, there's certain technologies that can reduce EMF. So utilizing those technologies, grounding is a really powerful thing to do. I sometimes bring a grounding mat and put it on my table. You got to kind of be careful and actually test the plugs because sometimes they're incorrectly hooked up. In LA, you got all this dirty electricity. I was really sensitive to. It was making me feel sick. Part of the reason I left. And radiation is also like water soluble. So, you know, really good water is amazing and meditation is amazing.
And then what do you consider like the best water? Hydrogen water, spring water?
Yeah, hydrogen water, but you want to have, so I have a really great like alkaline filter that filters the water really well. It's like basically like a Berkey filter.
Okay, so some people call horse shit on alkaline, but you say alkaline is good.
Normal alkaline is good. Oh,
Good.
Love it. pH 12. pH.
like,
Now y'all just doing too much?
relax, bro. Like in the same way, see, people don't like, they think if it's good for me, more is better, and it's not. Like, so your blood is always going to be 7.0 pH, right? It doesn't matter how much alkaline water you drink, it's never going to go to 8, right? It's always going to be at 7. Also, as much acid as you drink, acidic foods and acidic drinks, your blood is always going to be 7, right? It's always, so you're either going to make it do a lot of work to fight against too low pH or too high pH. Either way, you're stressing out your body. So something a little bit higher is good. Neutral is great. Get your alkalinization from the vegetables that you eat, right? That's neutral pH is great. You know, 8, 9 is good too. You know, it's almost like eating vegetables, but yeah, anything more than that, I think is just putting more stress than is necessary for the body. And then like from there, making sure it's really clean. If it's mineralized in a good way, you know, sometimes people put minerals in the water that aren't organic minerals, meaning that they're not actually absorbable, but they just are putting them in there because they say, oh, you know, calcium's good for you, but it's not absorbing, right? But you know, I also like the where there's a lot of controversy is over distilled water, right? They're saying that it leaches minerals out of your body. I believe that it takes bad minerals out of your body, right? And I think if you are putting good minerals in your body through your food, then you're going to be all right. But still, you don't want a bunch of crap in your water. And then I use a hydrogen machine. I use a Axiom hydrogen machine, and I infuse my water. It's like 3 times the ORP level, which is oxidative reduction potential, the negative ORP. So it can be an oxidant, like things that oxidize you, or it can be an antioxidant. So if it's negative, it's ORP levels, it's an antioxidant. And so this has like the highest ORP levels in the world of any like supplement you can take or any food that you can take. and I test it with a hydrogen monitor all the time, and it lasts for a long time.
Okay, so there's a hydrogen monitor you can do to test water. Okay.
So they have those new bottles, and we also sell the new bottles, but it's not nearly the concentration of hydrogen. It doesn't have as high ORP levels, but some is better than none. And if that's all the water that you drink is from that bottle, and you're drinking filtered hydrogen water, yeah, that's going to be great for you.
Yeah. Okay, so getting your water right, and then where do you said the amount of mental stress now you feel is at high level. Do you feel like mindset connects with longevity?
100%. Of course. And your mindset is influenced by your culture, and then your relationships. Your mental health is influenced by that. But, mindfulness has been proven to positively affect health and thus affect longevity. So mindfulness, meditation, breath work, I do every single day. It's a really important part of for me, creating that balance and being an entrepreneur, and also I'm privileged that I just really love what I do, and I can just work all day doing what I love, and still I make sure I'm praying, and then I do breath work and meditation every morning. At sundown, I pray and move my body, do standing sun salutation 3 times. And I feel amazing doing that. And now I'm working out again. I'm creating more time in my schedule to work out. I haven't worked out in a long time. I'm active, I'll throw hands every once in a while and move around. But actually lifting and focusing on body parts I haven't done in decades.
And then with your anti-aging protocol, there's a lot lately in terms of VO2 max, grip strength, and VO2 max, grip strength. There's one other physical one that they look at in terms of, do you recommend that to clients? Okay, you're going to do yoga a couple times a week. You should train VO2 max. Zone 2 is another thing that's been talked about in terms of longevity. Do you recommend that they do that once a week? Do you recommend that people train their grip as part of their protocol, or are these kind of smaller rocks compared to the big ones?
Yeah, no, it's great. What has been proven to increase longevity and certain aspects of longevity?
Oh, I was going to say bone strength. So strength of bones is the third one. Yeah, so how strong your bones are, which usually could come up for lifting weights.
Back to the same actions, which is, resistance training and cardio, right? So combining resistance training with a cardio, or sometimes you can combine them in the same exercise, to where you're strengthening your muscles with resistance, also strengthening your bones with that same resistance, and then you're also working your cardiovascular system, which is going to increase your VO2 max test. It all comes down to the same thing. And as you're moving with the resistance, your grip strength is naturally going to go up. And so, hanging, getting to a point where you can do pull-ups, training pull-ups, push-ups, squat jacks like we did today, and abs. Just doing those on a daily basis, and always looking to get stronger. My wife is a neuropsychologist, doctoral student at Northwestern University, and she's studying some really, really cool stuff. And yeah, she's really studying that interplay between willpower, cardio, resistance training, and I forgot the correlation that I was trying to get at right there.
They're all beneficial, but you're saying the willpower there's a connection between the willpower and the cardio and the strength training.
In what?
And the cardio and the strength training.
Yeah. The certain parts of the brain that are associated with longevity and super aging specifically, which is basically when you're 80 years old and you have the cognition of a 30-year-old, 40-year-old. You know, the same part of the brain that's more advanced than other people who aren't super agers deals with willpower, right? And so what my wife thinks it could be is that, because it's really weird with super aging in that there's no like rhyme or reason why these people have this advanced cognition that's not declining like everybody else's.
No rhyme or reason yet.
Yeah. So it's not like they're healthier than everybody, right? Some of them are really unhealthy. But it could be that they have willpower in some area of their life and they're doing something that they don't actually want to do, but they're doing it. And so,
which is strengthening parts of their brain.
Right, exactly. So what I was gonna come back to was, like, she was saying like, you always have to train to hypertrophy. And I was just like, and we were having this conversation and she was saying like, yeah, you have to keep getting stronger. And I was like, no, like, you know, we have all these different things that happens as we age. You can't continue getting stronger. She's like, she didn't really agree with me. And I was just like, there was something to that though. There was something there. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. But I think it's the mindset that she's really getting at, of like, because there's so many different areas in life and in health that longevity is positively impacted by doing the hard thing, right? So one of the great things for longevity, cognition, is to constantly be learning new things, right? Constantly be challenging yourself and learning new recipes. One of the number one things that helps retain cognition is the learning of new languages, right? And so even though you might not be actually getting physically stronger and you might not be getting cognitively stronger, you're still aging and there is an associated decline in cognition with that. You're not as cognitively flexible and sharp as you are in your 20s, though you have a different type of intelligence, which is wisdom. But if you have, it's like that learning, like I'm constantly learning. I might not be as sharp as I was when I was in my teens, but it's that desire to keep pushing yourself, right? So what hypertrophy for you might be a little bit decrease of where you were 10 years ago, but you're still pushing yourself to your limit. So something really resonated in what she was saying, and
just hearing you say that resonates with me.
Right? You know what I'm saying? It's because it's like you see it in a bunch of different areas. Like, I don't want to fast. You know, I want to be like overweight and flabby like all these other friends that as they get older, they're super flabby, right? They're super out of shape. And like, why is that guy so skinny at our 50-year reunion? Oh, he fasts. He's doing that hard thing. He's doing that thing that we all don't want to do, because this type of primal nature, this, comfort nature wants us to do, like maybe not control yourself when it comes to drinking, eating, partying, all these things. It's going to affect your longevity negatively, whereas resistance to these things, doing the harder choice, is actually more beneficial in the end. And like we see that in so many different areas of life, even like the marshmallow test with the kids, some Harvard study where, the ones that delayed gratification did better in life and all these different things. So I think it has something to do with that delayed gratification And so it really made sense to me that, yeah, willpower has something to do with this cognition being maintained. So she's like, might be changing her dissertation to these things. She's a genius. And
Yeah. Well, I talked earlier on the study that I read on, it was people over 115.
Yeah.
Or one of the things that they all shared is they were all ruthless about doing stuff themselves, where like you think you're good intention by saying, hey, grandma, don't do that. Let me do that for you. But with these people were ruthless, saying, no, I can do it myself. I can go to the store myself. I can go up and down the stairs myself. They probably wouldn't want to do that all the time. So they're demonstrating willpower and obviously
tenacity. That's what my wife calls it. She's like, I think it's tenacity. And so I loved you bringing that up today. I was like, oh, that is crazy. Like, I can't wait to send her that study because, you know, they're ruthlessly independent.
which requires levels of willpower.
Willpower, tenacity, just it's part of their personalities, right? And so they might not be healthy on everything, but they got that mindset. And I think that's why you brought up that question. And yeah, mindset has a lot to do with it. I brought up to you before you told me that study. There was this study basically where like mice and rats love to run. They love to run. So they had one mouse in a hamster wheel and it could run whenever it wanted. Its cage was a hamster wheel, so it can drink, eat, and then run whenever it wants. And so it did. And then another mouse was in a hamster wheel, and every time that first mouse ran, it made the other mouse run. So they got the same amount of exercise. But this region in their brain that was associated with longevity was increased in the one who chose to run and decreased in the one who was forced to run. So, you know, when you have a positive mindset on what you're doing, it's going to have a more positive effect in the body, right? Yeah. But like, so somebody eating a dessert, it could affect their body differently based on their mindset. If they're beating themselves up about eating it versus like, you know, celebrating, you know, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to get back to the grind. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, think about that. You know, we're
I do that too, by the way. I'm like, this is good for me. This is what I'm doing.
That's what
you just can't do it all the time.
Yeah.
I do it with my Oura ring too. If my Oura ring says a score that I don't like, I'll cross it out and just put something else on there too. Well, I could talk about this stuff with you all day, man. We've had a long day. Before we wrap up, the big part of culture that's happened this summer, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. You, of course, do a ton of work with Jake.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you get an opportunity to share some thoughts because it seems like you've met Iron Mike before as well. You guys have a history.
Yeah. I've met him before. We have a funny history. I don't even know how much, if he would even remember me. Like, we were a little bit crazy back in the day in Vegas. You know, we were both like, it was kind of crazy. Every time you saw Mike, he was like by himself. And he was just like the scariest guy. Yeah. And he would just walk around and like, you know, let's say back in those days, I was a partier and I was one of the top house music promoters and hosts, and I made a lot of money doing that. I also had the best like Molly and cocaine also. It was a different life. Don't judge me, you know, like yeah. So, you know, and he was kind of in that scene from a different angle in a way without going into details. But yeah, we like, we almost got in a fight / maybe I almost got beat up, or I don't know, like I was a fighter at the time, so I was in good shape, like, but I mean, I was, you know, it's Mike Tyson, so you never know.
Sure, yeah.
But he definitely got in my face about like two girls that like we both were like talked to, like we were friends with or whatever, on two different occasions. And one time I like picked up her at a club, and he like came up and like, don't ever fucking do that again. And I'm just like, I like take off my hat. I'm like, Mike, it's me, bro. Like, I sell you your like, relax. Like, and he just like, he literally growled and walked away. He was like, I'm just like.
And then do you have a prediction for what's going to happen in July?
I think it's going to be a great fight. You know, it's going to be an amazing fight. Like,
shout out to what Jake Paul's done for boxing. It's absolutely incredible.
Exactly. He's done big things for boxing. A lot of people are tuning in. You know, he's a lot of people's, to a lot of kids, he's their Mike Tyson, right? Like who Mike Tyson was to us maybe. And you know, props to Mike Tyson too. Like that guy, like
talk about anti-aging and longevity and stuff. I did a post on this today, but he for 57, he's putting a new
no, not even just 57, like for what he's put his body
yeah. It shows the power of these modalities, these recovery modalities.
Power of the modalities, like, and also he's like a phenomenal person now. Like back then, like one of the reasons like we also almost got in a fight like was because like I was just like, this girl was like talking to him. I'm like, you're talking to Mike? Like, she's like, yeah, he's so smart and he's so wise and like all these things. I'm like, Mike fucking Tyson? Like, wise, smart? Like, I'm like, that just shows how much of a retard you are. Like, she's like, what'd you say to me? I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot if you think Mike Tyson's smart. She's like, he is smart. I'm like, why don't you just YouTube like stuff that Mike Tyson has said? And I'm just like, she's like, oh yeah? And then she literally like calls me three-way with Mike, like, what was that shit you were saying about Mike? Like, you know, you said he was down. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I hear his voice on there. I'm just like hung up. I'm just like, I'm never talking to this girl again, dude. Like, what? But like, back then I really felt that way. Like I felt like he was like almost like a low character person and like didn't like, was just so crazy and unwise, and he got used and all these different things. But he's actually come back and he is actually like Uncle Mike and super wise, super cool. And he's learned a lot from everything he's been through, and he's an incredible inspiration to so many people.
Wick in the toe, the DMT, which you say your work can do in a smaller way, but I think he gives a lot of credit to that for being a big shift for him.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's a legend. He's my hero, and Jake's fought a couple of my heroes. You know, Anderson Silva. Now he's fighting Mike. You know, like I even liked Nate Diaz back in the day. Like, you know, he's a legend. Like, in the places I'm from, El Paso, Texas, New Mexico, you know.
But I think Tyson's just a great example that shows that he did put his body through hell for 25 years, and now he's doing all this stuff that you're talking about, and he looks phenomenal. Like your body can bounce back.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. Like everybody's got their predictions. Some people are like, why is he fighting him? And then some people are like, he's gonna get killed. And I don't know. He's training hard, and he's training to win, and it's going to be an awesome fight.
And then how I'd like to end this, we usually like to ask all of our world-class coaches that come on the show, like whether it was your time as a top athlete or when you work with the masters in Shaolin, or even with Jake now and who you're working with now, whether it's outside sports in the business community, is there like a common attribute that you feel most of them share on why they've been successful, like outside of physical genetics, that you feel that is common amongst the majority of them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, just drive. Like, they're extremely driven people. Some of it comes from trauma, to be honest. Some people are just born with it. Like, their astrology lines up, their genetics lines up, and
they don't need to do their
come
power
out
pose in the morning.
hungry. They don't need to do what?
Their power pose in the morning. They're
No,
already ready.
they came out like they power posed out of the womb, like, ah. But yeah, you see that, you know, A-type personality a lot. You know, hardcore, sometimes very opinionated, you know, but I don't know if that's nature or nurture or just a lot of times, but, you know, not every time. There's all kinds of different types of people that create success. But yeah, they're just driven. And, you know, sometimes it's hard for people to find like the motivation to like stay driven. But sometimes you just gotta almost biohack it, like find the things that actually do motivate you, see if you can incorporate them into your motivation, whether it's like, you know, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but, you know, find a way to create drive.
Beautiful. Ocean, thank you for coming on Super Athlete Radio.
Yeah.